What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan Johnston. I am a seasoned real estate agent here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And in today's video, I just want to take you through my move to Compass after bringing my business from other brokerages here in 2025. Kind of a look back as to where I've been, the thoughts that went into the change, and the path forward, and kind of why I think it was the best thing to get to the next step in my career and business overall. So a little bit about me. I started real estate up in the Northeast. I'm from New York originally. And then in 2015, I moved to Atlanta, brought my license down here, and then just tried to start building up a database and pipeline. I spent a few years working on various teams, really just trying to get my feet under me, understand the areas, because Atlanta is massive. And then in 2018, I decided to branch out on my own. And that's when I went over to Sotheby's International Realty, where I had been for the past 8 years. So for me to make a change this year, it was a pretty big deal. I think anyone that's thinking about uprooting their business, whether you're just tired of where you are, exploring new options, or maybe your brokerage got caught up in the Compass Anywhere merger that just got announced. There's a lot of thoughts and things that go into it because it's a really big deal trying to take everything you have and just move it somewhere else. I know the public doesn't really necessarily see that or get that side of it, but it's basically, it's not only moving, you just have everything so scattered that you then have to coordinate getting together in one place and transferred. So it wasn't a decision I took lightly. I had been kind of thinking about it for a little while, just of making a change. I think at some point, things get a little stale, or we just need an extra boost to kind of try and take ourselves to the next level, whether we're hitting that ceiling or just not getting the necessary support that we're looking for. I'm a big proponent, even outside of real estate, of people don't really leave companies. They usually leave leaders and scenarios. So when you look at situations, it's kind of trying to figure out, okay, are you getting all of the help and tools that can benefit you and kind of take you where you want to go? Or is it more beneficial starting over and trying to find that somewhere else that may align with your growth a little bit more? And that was the tough thing. I built a great business at Sotheby's. I met some absolutely fantastic agents, not only the ones I worked with here in Atlanta, but all across the United States. I had a massive agent referral network. For a lot of years, I was handling double-digit relocation referrals, which is really hard to kind of look at and say, okay, am I prepared to give this up and kind of know that I have to rebuild that agent network somewhere else and start over a little bit? Even though a lot of times, especially the people you're close with, like I would still, if it's the right fit for a client, absolutely refer them to somebody outside whatever company I'm at, as long as it's in their best interest. So I know it's not necessarily a loss down the road, but it is something to be mindful of. One of the things that I always felt is kind of, if we look at real estate, most brokers or brokerages, I should say, and companies, I feel are stuck in the past. You have very small margins. There's a lot of overhead usually. I know we have some cloud-based systems now, but as we transition, it's more important than ever to empower the agents. And I think there's always a focus on trying to recruit. We keep the numbers up, but there's never really that much of a focus on building internally and saying, okay, now that we have these great people who enhance our culture, rather than worrying about how to just constantly get new talent, how can we take who we have and push them to the next level? And I think a lot of that comes down to, there's always this need with the tech shifts to have the newest and best tools. But if things don't talk to each other, if an agent has to go 9 different places to get what they need, it's really hard to make that run in a cohesive business. And it's expensive because you want to get to the point where you can potentially outsource or hire some of these things. So if you're a solo agent or an agent that doesn't have those funds, you really want things to be as easy and streamlined as possible so that when you're scattered throughout the day, you can just kind of structure things and not have to worry about all the exterior noise. I think as far as the time at some of the other brokerages, they had a lot of great tools. I think some of it was at the forefront. I think it was a lot about trying to figure out what can we bring that would help our agents. But I think what gets lost in the fact that agents have a tough time adapting to a handful of tools and using them effectively. And then just adding more on top of that really kind of just it almost gets lost in the noise. And I saw a lot of the great things that were implemented or try to be implemented just weren't necessarily utilized on a mass scale that you would expect, even though it could enhance business. One, because it's learning a new skill for a lot of people. And two, they just don't have the time to commit to get that there. So when I kind of thought about this the past few years of like, I kept hitting the same level of production, and some of that I'll attribute to like I have two kids. For a while, we had two under two in the past few years, so my attention was very scattered as far as just real estate. I couldn't allocate the same amount of time to just learning and implementing all these new resources. But that kind of got me thinking of like, if we're all operating on limited time, and even if I was scaling my business and doing more, theoretically, I want to be more efficient at what I'm doing to be able to accomplish more work in the same amount of time or outsource it. And that's kind of what me started looking at. I just wanted something that I could plug and play in one system, an all in one feature. I didn't have to go to all of these different apps and spaces to try and connect the dots. And it was just a little bit more streamlined for me. So, one of the things as agents, like we always hear about Compass, obviously, and some of the other big brokerages. Compass to me was always just branded as like the innovative tech brand. It was kind of like the trendy, cool thing to do. But other than that, it just hadn't really, I hadn't seen enough to differentiate it when I looked originally to say, okay, this is something that I'm comfortable moving my business. I think it was back in 2019 when I met with them originally after they first started breaking into Atlanta. And back then, the meetings were really, it kind of felt like all the other broker meetings where you're seeing all of these tools, but they're not that much different from what we had. And my thing was like, if I'm going to uproot my business, I need it to be a drastic change or enhancement to forward where I'm going. Um, I think back then it was more of we want you to come on and we're selling a vision of what will be. And then this year, when I just started looking at other places and met with them again, now all of a sudden I'm looking 6 years later and it's like everything they said that was going to happen actually ended up happening. And all of these tools and products came to fruition and were accessible. And that was kind of cool to see because I think a lot of times like the brokerages and companies can't necessarily move as fast in the real estate space as they want to. And here you have one where it was like, we're willing to pivot and adapt even as this massive company because they're not worrying about all the other brands they're associated with. They're just worrying about their brand, what they can bring to the table, and how they can enhance value for the agents. So it was kind of cool. And that was really kind of the main thing that pushed me over the edge this year to make the change was that everything that I was hoping they were going to have years ago, they had actually had. And now there's a roadmap for additional things, knowing that the industry is still going through massive changes going forward. And in my mind, I could see that they were willing to embrace those changes. So I kind of looked at it of if I view real estate and the world in a general sense of we are just shifting into a digital media AI atmosphere where it's constantly going to be changing and getting more and more complicated. What is the fastest real estate horse I can win the race with? And to me, that just ended up being Compass. That's not a knock on the other companies. I think some of the other companies are absolutely fantastic. And I've worked and co-opted with tons of them. But for my business, it kind of just made the most sense. Um, I think looking at it of the easiest thing for me, if you're just trying to figure out, okay, what is the net benefit to my business? I think we kind of just start with the Agent Hub. The Agent Hub is just an all-in-one platform where if I don't do anything else throughout the day, I can just load this up. And I know, okay, I'm looking at it like I have my search function, which is basically a built-in enhanced version of the MLS with just as many parameters and collections that can be curated for clients. And I'm just kind of looking over here because I have everything on my dashboard on my other screen. There's a performance tab where I can analyze my year-to-date performance and basically say, okay, this is how many appointments I need to set. This is how many phone calls I need to do, how many people I need to meet with. It's really more of just a visual. Uh, it's just a visual component where I can say like, okay, this is where I'm at and where I want to be in a chart form, which is great because I think a lot of times it's hard, especially if you're using like Google Sheets or things. It's like, okay, I had some listings. I didn't get that appointment. This one expired or withdrawn. This one just throws it up in a format where it's like, oh, I actually need to hit these metrics. And it's a lot more like KPI oriented. They have your built-in contacts list, which to me is an enhanced CRM version. You can tag, you can sort, everything gets filtered directly to the people. So that was a huge component. I wanted my hub, my business tracker, everything I was doing to also connect to my database, where if I'm sending out email, it's saved directly onto their account. If I'm doing marketing pieces for them, it's saved right there. And that's the great thing about their built-in contact feature. It's an enhanced CRM that ties into all of the other features. One of the newer ones is their likely to sell option. And I think this kind of just creates a great touch point. Not so much now where we're seeing inventory shift back a little bit towards a buyer's market. There are more homes available. But if you're in an area where it's just super desirable, great school district, or there's not a lot of options, touching base with your clients and saying, hey, I know you're not looking to move right now, but is there a pie in the sky price that would actually get the conversation started and maybe make sense for you? So similar to what Zillow did with their Make Me Move, this is something where it just gives you an opportunity to reach out to your sphere, your clients, a great touch point to just give them an update on the market and say, okay, if somebody comes to me, are you okay if I extend a number to them that maybe, it's not a commitment to sell, but at least you know that there's a potential buyer, and it keeps you top of mind for that seller, that you're thinking about their interests and how you could potentially help them down the road. Because the worst thing is that communication kind of stalls. They haven't really heard from you. And when it gets to the point of selling, you're then having to kind of win back the trust because you haven't done enough over time to show that you're still in it. So I think the likely to sell feature is great, just as like an added touch point. I talked about the messages feature, the built-in, like all of your people, it builds in, you can email, you can text them, it saves the account. I can add tasks, which is great. I can add updates. So that way I have a to-do list built into my hub and I know every day, like, okay, these are the things I need to do. Or if we have a closed transaction, we can kind of build it out. In a way, it's really like a project management software, also connected into a CRM, into a marketing system. So a lot of it is as much as you want it to be, or you could keep it as uncomplicated as possible and kind of just nitpick and use certain aspects of it. The business tracker is something that I love. This is what I wanted for years that just seemed very difficult, where all of a sudden I have a listing or a file. I then tie in my file directly into the client's CRM block. It pulls in and is tied to all of the Georgia documents that I would need for e-signing purposes. It has e-signing capabilities. And then within the insights, once their listing is active, I can then send out the marketing reports directly through the platform. So as far as like getting a client into the system and then going through like a step-by-step approach of these are all the check marks to the point where we're listed, we're following up, we're on the market, we're closed. Now we're scheduling out closing gifts and our touch points in the future. It gives that added benefit while also tracking the performance. And also on top of that, we have the marketing hub in here, which ties into every listing that you potentially have. So you can see, okay, I'm going to add in the MLS number for this listing. It pulls in all of the listing photos and data and starts pre-creating pieces for you. So what this has now done is it's avoided me from having to go to 6 different places to do an email blast, to do client follow-up, my to-do list, my CRM, project management. I don't have to reach out to the marketing team because a lot of the things are templated in there. I do think it's important that you still, wherever you are, move away from necessarily like the base templates. We used some of them as kind of just a stopgap while we got up and running. And now that our branding and everything is done and we've kind of compassified all of our collateral, now we're shifting back to like, okay, how can we curate our posts and content a little bit more and make it feel less like a static post and more engageable with the team that's relatable. So that's kind of like the hub itself, seeing all of this, especially demoed, it was so drastically different from what I had already. Where I mean, I was operating off of Google Sheets. We didn't have the influx of leads because I don't buy leads to really necessitate a follow up boss or anything like that. So for us, it was really just operating off of like Google Sheets, docs for our weekly team meetings, and kind of just going through and updating things. And now it's just shifted where it's all in the agent hub and we don't have to worry about anything getting lost because everyone can see it. My assistant has proxy access where she can see the things that are on mine. She has her own version. And then if I need to bring on a VA or something as well, they can also have access to whatever I want to tailor their experience to be. So as far as like going from solo agent to trying to ramp up to have a team, it really makes that pretty easy if I'm willing to put in the time and work to get there. And that's not even touching on like Compass One and the whole all-in-one experience for the clients. So when I met with them again this year, and I'm thinking about like, okay, I'm looking to make a change because I want to break through my current production ceiling and take business to the next level. So I need something that's going to make my day-to-day easier. It's going to streamline things. It's going to enhance business, and it's going to add or provide more value to my clients that I can articulate a clear and positive difference, knowing that I've worked at these other brokerages and what those pitches are going to be from those agents. So that way, if I'm sitting in a listing appointment and they tell me they're interviewing agents from 3 or 4 different companies, I understand how very different we are in our approach and abilities here at Compass now from those companies to address pain points and point out the things that may be lacking on the other side. And that's not to say like people are always going to choose who they like the most personality wise or who they kind of just connect with. So I never expect to win every listing appointment I go to. But as far as having the tools and resources, I believe when used correctly, we now have a superior set compared to what I have seen at other brokerages or what I've been offered previously. And that's a big deal. Within that, you have the coaching and training platform as well. This is big, especially just for agent growth. There's just a lot of collaboration, not just in your market, but cross market. Whether here in the Southeast, like we have multiple opportunities that you don't have to attend, but you can attend, where you're just getting a glimpse into what's going on in the Carolinas, in Florida, kind of understanding the various marketing shifts. And it's very much giving us the data that we need to communicate with our clients because we're not just agents. We're now digital marketing centers. We're financial advisors. I need to be up to date on every economic trend that's going on, what's going on a geopolitical sense or like a micro and macro economic level. So a lot of that data is just now fed to me from various points and it all kind of centralizes. So I can pick and choose what is conveyed to people as needed. And that's very helpful. Other like main talking points that may be a little bit different. I think it's great. We have the private exclusives, which I know this can be a hot button issue for a lot of people. As far as private exclusives or off market homes go, I had always used a non-exclusive buyer or a non-exclusive agreement here in Georgia on a listing side to allow outreach without having the home publicly listed. So for people to say like, oh, Compass is trying to just like keep all of these listings internally. Well, here, at least I don't practice dual agency at the company. So that makes it difficult for me to say that's like a huge advantage. And for years, I had already been practicing this anyway, where an off-market listing can still be marketed without having this private exclusive route. I think the nice thing about the private exclusive route is that if a client wants to market a home in a certain way, or you're testing out a price point, or you're just trying to get agent opinions, maybe you're not listing the property to next year and you're just trying to get a head start and build a list of interested parties. It's a great way to just accumulate data. And that's what we're looking for, because the more information we have, by the time it goes ready to hit a public listing, the better we are at potentially getting our clients the highest sales price, in my mind. So I always let a client choose. I don't push one either way. Every scenario, every house is completely different. But the nice thing with the private exclusives is it integrates directly into our search function here. So if I have a client that is looking at our replicated MLS search in our Compass One platform, it also pulls in the private exclusives. So they can see not only the coming soons, the actives, but also potential options that are going to be off market and just within our wheelhouse as well. I think obviously with the Anywhere Compass merger, there's a lot of speculation of how it all pans out. I think one of the biggest things is really just going to be the enhancement of the private exclusives. If it then rolls out to the other companies as well that are now under the umbrella, all of a sudden you've just increased to over 300,000 potential agents and their databases that could all pull into this. So it's all about getting more information resources for the clients. And I think that's helpful. Most times, at least here in Georgia, you're going to get the best offer or the highest chance at a high sales price by going to open market. And that's a conversation we just have on a case-by-case scenario with all of our clients. But that's kind of in a nutshell, like what led to the change, why I was looking for something different, and my experience so far. I've only been here, I joined at the beginning of July 2025, and here we are in October. And I'd say there's a curve getting up to speed, because you're still running your business day to day, and it's been a very busy year. So like trying to piece by piece just get familiar with all of the products. There's a lot of learning tools, platforms, videos that can be rewatched. That's helpful. But I think if you are thinking about making a move in the future, just kind of really, really dial in on getting your CRM, all of your information for your clients situated first, and then worry about trying to integrate piece by piece after that. The nice thing is it's already here in one spot. So once you get comfortable with one stage, you can kind of just add the next layer and add the next layer, rather than having to go externally and think, okay, I have to go to this different website, I have to go to this different platform, and then try and integrate everything from there. So I think it's absolutely whatever you want to make it. I think in the future, as we see more consolidation happen, as there's much more of a focus on AI and the automation process, so much of this will just be done for us, that as long as you can keep pace and learn the tools and all of the little tech things along the way, I think those are the agents that are going to win. The ones that can figure out how to integrate all this stuff, so that way, once they're presenting clients with the options, it's streamlined, and then their time can be used elsewhere for more money-making activities. Absolutely long-winded rant. I hope some of that made sense for you guys. The too long didn't read TLDR, need more coffee this morning, is basically an all-in-one system. I personally felt Compass provide all of the best tools and resources, not just for me to enhance my business, but as talking points to clients, buyers, and sellers, and trying to take my business to the next level, where if I go from solo agent to scaling as a team, also looking out down the road 5, 10, 15 years, I don't think we can really comprehend how vastly different the real estate landscape is going to be over the course of the next decade, based on how much has changed in the past 10 years. This to me is the fastest horse in the race to jump on and has the highest chance of success from what I've seen. I don't see agents going away fully anytime soon. I think our roles will shift over time, whether it's live selling, consultant based services. There are a lot of different ways this could go. So I would just encourage anyone to really think about what you can do for the long term to keep yourself in it, or start building a foundation to either scale or honestly an exit strategy. Can that and that can be very important as well. But thanks so much for you watching. If anyone has had experiences, whether you've just joined Compass or another brokerages, good or bad, if there's any tips or tricks that you feel like I may not have covered or stuff that I didn't talk about, I'd love to hear them below. Even if you don't want to comment, feel free to just shoot me an email, and love to chat with you guys more.